Hi, I'm Jason with Porcupine Gamers, and with me as always is my co-host, Jared. Here at Porcupine Gamers, we're all about bringing together everyone with all things tabletop. Alright everyone, we're going to talk more about the D&D classes. Now, in the last few videos we covered everything from the Barbarian, Bard, Druid, Cleric, and then later on the Fighter, Paladin, Monk, and Ranger. In this video we're going to be talking about the last classes that are left for D&D.
Some of my favorites.
And this is why I waited for my buddy Jared here, because these are all Jared's favorites. So the first one we're talking about here is the Rogue. And so what you're going to see here, if you haven't followed our other videos, we've got them up here, up above. Click them to watch the other ones. But the breakdown for this, we're going to talk about what they're good at, what skills you want to focus in, and what skills are dump stats. Now, like I put in the previous video's disclaimers, none of this is written in stone, and everything changes based on role-playing and what you want to do with the character. But overall, this will be what works. So, this is what the Rogue is good at. The Face, Scout, Trap Monkey, and Burst Damage. But honestly, it works for a lot of other things as well. The Rogue is very versatile. If you love to sneak around, pick pockets, disappear into the shadows, be Batman, that's the Rogue. You can go range, you can go melee, you can disarm traps, locks, and a number of other problems. The Fixer, the Scout, and the Face. So these are the things that the Rogue is good at. Dexterity, and you can do Wisdom and Constitution secondary. The reason Wisdom you're going to want secondary is because Wisdom is basically your ability to see things. Perception is based on Wisdom. Especially if you're going to go the Trap Monkey route or the guy scouting ahead to notice things.
It doesn't matter how smart you are if you never notice it in the first place.
Precisely. Con secondary, basically so you can survive getting hit in the face. Pretty much everyone benefits from con. For the things you don't want, your dump stats are going to be Charisma and Strength. Now, that's not always true. If you want to be the Face, Charisma. Wisdom is the dump stat. Other way around, if you're going to be the Face, but not the Trap Monkey, Charisma, dump Wisdom.
Rogues can be very different depending on what you're going for. Like you said, Scout, Trap Monkey, Burst Damage.
These are some notable rogues throughout history. Sherlock Holmes, Loki, Batman, Styx the Goblin. By the way, if you played the game Styx, fun game, was on Xbox, PC. You literally get to be a shadow teleporting rogue, murdering people and sneaking around. So, you played that game there, Jared. What did you think about Styx as a rogue?
I loved it. If you're going to recreate Styx, I'd take a couple levels in either Monk or Shadow Sorcerer.
And Indigo Montoya, the swashbuckler route.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Now, these are some examples. I did a few different, just like I've done with the other examples, of what to do depending on how you build them. Again, like Jared said, the rogue you can build 1,000 different ways. But if you're going to go with the normal everyday rogue, 8 strength, 15 dex, 14 con, 11 intelligence, 12 wisdom, and 12 charisma. If you're going the arcane trickster route, that's kind of like the weird separate rogue because that's a caster rogue. And you'll need intelligence. So strength 10, dexterity 15, constitution 14, intelligence 14, and then 10 for wisdom and charisma. Now, what races are good if you want to be a rogue? The Aarakocra, Elemental Evil Book. Again, they get a dex bonus. They can fly. Pretty no-brainer. The Elf, Eladrin, High Elf. I forgot to put it there, guys. The Eladrin is going to be Mordekainen's Tome of Foes. Or Volos. Don't quote me on that. Wood Elf, High Elf. Essentially, you'll notice all these guys get dex bonuses. That's why.
Tome of Foes for Eladrin.
Tome of Foes for Eladrin. Yeah, so I was right. The Shadar-kai, which is another type of Eladrin, technically. The Deep Gnome, which is the Smurf Neblin, which is a gnome subrace. Elemental Evil. Half-elves, take your pick. All of them are great for rogue. Halfling, the Lightfoot Halfling, great for a rogue. Human, you can do normal or the variant build. Kobold for Volo's Guide. You've got the Tabaxi, also Volo's Guide. Tiefling, you'll want to either do Glacia or Glacia, however you say it. I say Glacia. Or the Feral variant. In Eberron, Changelings are a good pick. Dragon Mark Half-Elf, Mark of Detection or Mark of Storm. Dragon Mark Halfling with the Mark of Healing. Or Dragon Mark Human, Mark of Passage. Now, before we move on, I like to do what I call Jared's Tips and Tricks. So, at the end of this, I haven't been able to do it because I haven't had Jared here. But now we've got Jared. So, Jared, let us know some tips and tricks about the rogue. What are some things that players should keep in mind when they're playing a rogue? And what are some things that you personally like to do with a rogue?
First and foremost, as a rogue, communication is very important. Unless you want to be the guy that there's memes about everywhere, a good rogue communicates with the party. You're going to be much better at sneaking than them, but you need to talk to them. Otherwise, when you disappear, well, that's why everyone hates rogues. A rogue that communicates and a rogue that, and I'm not saying you have to share all of it, but if you share at least some loot and tell them that it's an even split, it goes a long way to the paladin not killing you in your sleep. And even though these are the recommended races, I once had a half-orc rogue. Doesn't mean you can't go outside the box. These are just ones that probably will complement it best.
Dench, the half-orc. Alright guys, now we're going to talk about the Sorcerer. The Sorcerer is going to be really good at one thing, burning everything alive. I put on there the delete button, blaster caster, the face, controller utility. I haven't seen the Sorcerer ever be the face in anything, but technically he could do it. He's got the charisma, so he can do the talking. But generally, even though that is the case, I've never seen it happen. The Sorcerer sits off while the Paladin, or the Rogue sometimes, or anyone else talks. But you can do that. Remember, charisma is going to be your thing. The charisma is also your casting stat, so that's why it's going to be on there for your main stat. Dex and con secondary. You can dump strength. You don't care about it. And basically shore up.
That's for people without magic.
Exactly. You've got magic, so you don't need any of that. But depending on what archetype and what the rest of the party's doing, you can shore up around there. But easy choice. Dex has your high, or charisma's your highest. Dex will help for your AC, and con for your life when you get the crap beat out of you.
And the fighter doesn't use his strength to protect you.
Exactly. So your dump stat obviously is going to be strength. Play if you like. Doctor Strange, John Constantine, Castiel from Supernatural, Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, Elsa from Frozen. Heck, Storm from the X-Men. I mean, it goes on and on. If they've got magic,
innate power, it's such a big range.
If you have natural magic, you're a sorcerer. Here's your stats right there. Strength is an 8, Dex is 14, Con is 14, Intelligence is 10, Wisdom is 10, Charisma is 15. All you care about is just with your charisma. Fireball everything.
Burn people with your personality.
Burninating. Alright guys, now this is another one from, like I said, Bun Boi. Great comics, I like them. I've been posting them. I've got a link in the description if you want to see more of his or her work. I don't know who it is, but Bun Boi, hilarious comic. So, this shows here. Sorcerers gain magic from their genes. Wow! No, not those. So, that sums up, in a funny way, natural magic is how you became a sorcerer. So, things that make good sorcerers. This list is going to be a lot smaller, actually, because not a lot of things get natural buffs to charisma. Eladrin, Mordekainen's Tome of Foes. Half-Elf, you know, the elf sorcerers have been around forever. Any of them work. Human variant, because then you can pick the charisma for the buff. Tiefling, Dispater, Glacia, and Levistus. And then the variant Tiefling, either Devil's Tongue or Winged. Mostly because Winged is just awesome, right? UNT Pureblood, Volo's Guide, and Eberron. Changeling, well, that's it. So that covers the races that you can be that are beneficial for a sorcerer. And now it's time for Jared's tips and tricks. So, you got a sorcerer. I've picked one of those races, or maybe I haven't. What's some things I need to keep in mind as a sorcerer? And what sets a sorcerer apart from other casters?
Role-playing wise, I would really ham up the source of your powers. You get you're basically an X-Man. You get it just from your blood. Everyone else is making deals with devils or spending years studying in school, and you're like, why can't you just do the spell?
Do it? It was easy.
But also mysterious powers. Are you a dragonborn? Then maybe you have scales. Do you want to just look like a half dragon? Then do a dragonborn draconic. Is it draconic?
Draconic bloodline.
And you'll literally fly around like a dragon. It's amazing.
And then what you can do is, like you see in that picture, Trogdor! Alright guys, next up we have the Warlock. What's he good at?
My favorite.
Controller, Striker, fills roles with different packs, the face, and Eldritch Blast. That's what he's good at, because that's all he has. No, I'm just kidding. There are many jokes about the Warlock. As far as casters, it is Jared's favorite guy, despite you'll read in books that it's not the best caster. Some people will just dip-a-toe and grab it so they can have Eldritch Blast. I said it's cheesy. I say that it isn't role-playing. You're making a pact with something to be a Warlock.
You don't make a pact with Satan so you can get one level.
I want to just talk to the devil just a little bit so I can go, Pachoo, Eldritch Blast. Pachoo, Eldritch Blast. Warlock, you're a fan of serving a patron. The sorcerer, like he said, has natural magic. You do not. You're a failure as a human being, or elf, or dwarf. A Warlock, you pick a patron, and they basically give you a lot less spells you have to remember at a cost.
Why go to school when you can sign on with your demon daddy?
Precisely. Sorcerer, like I said, middle of the road on spells. Warlock on the easy end. There's not a lot you have to remember. Warlocks get a lot less spells to choose from, and they don't have to worry as much about spell slots. You're not naturally good at magic. You made a deal. The important thing to note here is you will not lose the knowledge if you turn from the deal you made, but there will be consequences for your slighted patron. Charisma is the name of the game with ye old Warlock. Just like the sorcerer, that's your casting. You can dump strength, intelligence, wisdom, etc. And that's going to depend on how you build. So I put strength or intelligence and wisdom because you can build something what's called a Pact of the Blade, aka the Blade Lock, which essentially means you're actually a melee fighter with your weapon as a Warlock. In that case, you might want strength. Players will like the Warlock if they like Captain Jack Sparrow, Ash from Evil Dead, the Silver Surfer, Faust. You know Faust, guys. Or Raven from Teen Titans are all good examples.
Or being the edgiest character in the room.
You want to be the coolest. You're tired of all these angel, goody, two-shoes, clerics, and paladins, lawful good in their way around, when, you know, you kind of like to have devil horns and shoot fire out of your eyes, etc., etc. So, I put the examples here. Pact of the Chain, Pact of the Tome, or Pact of the Blade, depending on which way you build. If you went the Chain Tome route, pretty common, 8 Strength, 14 Dex, 14 Con, 10 Intelligence and Wisdom, whatever, and 15 Charisma. If you went the Blade Lock route, it would go a little higher, 10 Strength, a little more Dex, 15, and Con 14. Dump the rest, 8 and 8, and a 15 in Charisma. Now, what races lend themselves to Warlocks? Eladrin, Mordekainen's Tome of Foes. Half-Elf, Drow, or Vanilla. Human, the variant. Tiefling, Dispater, Glacia, and Levistus. Again, keep in mind some of these are for certain builds, either the Blade Lock or the Chain or Tome. Variant Tiefling, Devil's Tongue or Winged. You'll notice a lot of common features with the Sorcerer. These guys are all charisma buff. Triton, UNT Pureblood, Volo's Guide. And I don't think I mentioned it in this video. I've mentioned it in the other two. Keep in mind, any of these Volo's Guide are generally monsters, and you really can't play them. D&D
Get your
says,
DMs, go ahead.
Yeah, D&D says no to that, like, as a rule. In Volo's Guide, it says, but if the DM allows it, here's some fun things to play a monster. Generally because they're powerful. The UNT Pureblood is just better.
Also, if being an evil snake person didn't get you ran out of town, being an evil snake person that works for Satan will.
It's true. Eberron, you've got the Changeling. You've got the Warforged. The Dragon-marked Elf with the Mark of the Shadow. The Dragon-marked Half-Elf, Mark of Detection and Storm. The Dragon-marked Halfling, Mark of Hospitality. And the Dragon-marked Human, Mark of Passage. And now it's time for everyone's favorite game, Jared's Tips and Tricks.
I absolutely love Warlocks. Aside from getting to be overly edgy, there's your own little built-in backstory just with being a Warlock. You have a villain that's always on your shoulder, or a good guy. Not every Warlock has to be edgy, but I mean, if you didn't want to be edgy, just be a Paladin, right?
It's true. You can do a Pact of the Celestial, I think it's called.
Work for God instead of Satan, but just be a Paladin.
It's true.
My biggest advice to anyone playing a Warlock is, as with any edgy class, being edgy doesn't mean you have to be the guy that acts like a punk to the rest of the group. You have some demons to wrestle with. I'd also cite on there, for a good role-playing advice, Hellboy is a really good example.
Hellboy! Oh, that's a really good one. I should have put that on there. Well, I guess technically
But he's not really a Warlock.
But, yes.
But he acts like one.
He's really cool. Come on. You can be a Tiefling, which, as you can see, Tieflings make great Warlocks.
Just
be Hellboy.
Just roleplay Troubled Dark Past. And you got a Warlock.
Now, we have a very special opportunity here, as Jared has played more Warlocks than anyone in North America. Now, Jared, you have a few Warlock characters. Tell us about your favorite, and keep in mind, this is not a race that you see on there for Warlocks, but it's been one of his favorite and one of my favorite to play with. Tell us about Wenred.
For anyone that knows Lovecraft and Cthulhu, I made a halfling noble, of all things, that maybe he signed a little deal with Cthulhu.
Who's to say? I mean, who hasn't made a deal with the old ones?
Cthulhu Fatagan. But he's an excellent example of a character whose patron is something constantly driving everything that's roleplayed about him. Every act, every treasure I take, everything I build as that character is keeping my patron in mind. Because come epic level, or maybe sooner, he's going to wonder why I haven't brought him into the world. And at that point, I can either become the main villain, or I can try and stop him. And that's what I've been prepping for.
And no one needs to know which choice he'll be taking, because we've kept that on the DL.
And Great Old Ones also have a trait where no one can read their minds, which I'm not saying that's what they plan for, but it sure comes in handy for that.
Alright, we got up next the Wizard. You're a wizard, Harry. Boom. Good at, you may ask? Well, I'll tell you. Ba-bum, ba-bum. He's going to tell.
That's copyrighted.
The answer is everything. The Wizard is one of the most powerful classes in D&D. You has all the spells.
Just don't
Mostly.
get hit with an arrow.
Patent pending. The Wizard can pull from the largest pool of spells, but must prep them, so you need to manage your spells and spell slots. A Wizard uses a spell book, and you're going to basically prep what spells you have ready for the day. good at the blaster, the caster, and pretty much anything in the party. You can do that role better than what they can do with spells. You can enhance your stats, you can fly, you can boost defense, you can kill things. I mean, there's a lot a wizard can do.
Being a tank is possible, but it would be rough.
True. I recommend doing another caster earlier if you don't know what you're doing yet, and then go to the wizard later, because you're going to have to keep track of concentration, effects, bonus actions, all kinds of other things. Once you're ready, the wizard is your man or woman. Now, what stats? Pretty much spend charisma, wisdom, right? The wizard, finally, is the one that uses intelligence. Sorcerer naturally had magic. The warlock made a deal with someone. But the wizard...
Satan.
The intelligence is how the wizard got it. He read books. He studied. He went to school.
For years.
Yep, so he just, busted his butt for his power. Some people were born with it, and some people took shortcuts. Which is why the wizard has the most amount of spells. Dex and Con are secondary. There's two reasons for that. Your life and your life and your life. Dex is AC, Con is your life. The wizard basically should have a D4 for a hit die because of how little his health is. It's a D6, but...
There are mice with more hit points than you.
It's rough. Strength and Charisma. Because why? Why would you need that? You're not going to be the face. You're the smart weirdo in the corner. And if you're punching something with your strength...
You're the grouchy nerd.
Yeah, no. Don't do that. Now, famous wizards. I really couldn't think of any, so I didn't put any there. Oh, wait. I could. Because it's everyone ever. Gandalf. Harry Potter. And everyone in Harry Potter. Merlin. Willow from Buffy. I don't know if you guys remember that, but anyway. The White Witch. I stopped writing them because I wanted to be fair to the other classes, but you all know wizards. Come on.
Just Google famous wizards and
Just type in a wizard and
see
be like,
how many pages you can
all
go
of
through.
them. All these people we're talking about, like Mordekainen. I mean, he was a wizard. Elminster.
Almost anyone that ever made a spell in the D&D book.
Speaking of which, that guy right there, you should look up that guy. He's a wizard after my own heart.
Don't pick a fight with him, though.
You could probably beat him. If your party got together and tried your hardest.
He might give you an illusion that you succeeded just to
We
not make
did
the guy
it!
disappointed.
Huzzah! Alright, example stat point by 8 strength. Like I said, if you could make it lower, you would. 14 dex, 14 con, 15 intelligence, and 12 wisdom. And dump your charisma. As you can see, that's still pretty decent for the other stats. And you're going to be pretty great. Alright guys, what would make a good wizard? Here are the races we recommend. But before we do that, let's look at this comic. In the top left, the wizard says, I strike with a mighty bolt of fire, a technique passed down generations. My foe approaches, the fool, I am a wizard. The elements are mine, I am mighty, ho ho ho. The wizard is hit for 6 damage.
I'm dead.
So, here are the different races that you can do as the wizard. You've got the gnome, forest, but any are good. High elf, half elf, human, tiefling, Asmodeus, basil bull, or winged variant. There he is again, the UNT pureblood from Volo's Guide. And in Eberron, you've got the warforged, dragon-marked dwarf, mark of warding, dragon-marked half elf, mark of detection, dragon-marked halfling, mark of healing, dragon-marked human, mark of handling, making, or passage. Before we go on, it's time for everyone's favorite time, Jared's tips and tricks.
Wizards are one of my favorite classes. I stopped playing them sometime after 3rd edition because I felt bad for the rest of the party. With enough preparation, there's not a lot a wizard can't do.
Wizard!
The tricky part is preparation.
Now, I didn't talk about this before, but I want to touch on it a little bit. So, cantrips you can do for free. You've got slots for spells. Concentration is a factor. You can only have one concentration spell at once. But there's another type of spell called ritual spells. And a ritual spell essentially takes 10 minutes extra to cast. And then if you do that, it doesn't use a spell slot. Now, because of that, you cannot upcast it because you used a ritual. But wizards have a feature with ritual spells.
Well, for starters, most casters can only get ritual casting with a feat, but a wizard just gets it for being a wizard. See, you didn't go to school for nothing. Warlocks can't do that without help. But in addition to that, most casters only have their list of spells to pull off of. A ritual caster has every spell he's ever written down in that book. Meaning, during downtime, there's a lot of spells you can do.
Plus, you're not burning your spell slots. The wizard is just ridiculous. Jared's playing one right now, who's Robo-Wizard. Tell us about old Gezu.
My good robot Gezu spends his time, not being scared of things that he should be, because we're all starving to death in the desert and he doesn't understand the concept of food. What he does understand the concept of is a rope trick. It's a nice little spell, and it's another one that you can just do and just sit up there, sit around, just do some ritual spells, and afterwards just check in and see how the fight's going. The barbarian's probably fine. He can handle this. But there are so many... I have him built around ritual spells because for being a wizard, I don't like to have to worry about how many spells I cast.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out our video today. This is the last of a 3-part series on the classes for D&D. We've got videos also up above here you can click that have more on rules, spellcasting, combat, and we're going to be putting out our next group of videos next week, talking about the gods and goddesses of D&D and getting a little more in-depth about character creation and background. If you found value, if you liked it, please hit the like and subscribe button and hit the bell button so you can see more D&D and tabletop videos. And guys, check out down below. I put a link in the description for the Twitter for Bun Boi Arts. Some of those comics I used in there were from that artist, so please give a shout out to them. Go check out their work. It's pretty great. Great D&D references. I really liked it. So if you're out there, thank you. Awesome. If I can't use any of that, let me know and I will get rid of it, but I'd love to showcase your work. And connect with the community down below, guys, in the comment section, and just say, hey, what's the class you're excited to play? And as always, come together with family and friends over the tabletop. And now for the takeouts. Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Jason, Porcupine Gamers. Here, Porcupine Gamers. Okay, so I'm not used to you being here. All right, hit record. Cut. 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm your host, Jason, and with me, as sometimes, is my co-host, Jared. He's this guy, his beard's falling off. We're going to have to fix that. Cut. Dun, 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 dun. Hi, everyone. We're live here today. I'm Jason with Porcupine Gamers, and my buddy right next to me's name is Gerbleflob McBurpburps. Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us here at Porcupine Gamers, where we're bringing together everyone with all things tabletop. I'm your host Jason, and with me is my co-host
Jared. That was awkward. This is pure gold.